I said I was going to give an alternative definition of enlightenment. This isn't the only one or the truth. There's many of them. But here's one that we'll just play with for a few minutes. Enlightenment is certain knowledge of absolute truth. Certain knowledge of absolute truth. Certain knowledge means it's in my bones. I'm absolutely 100% certain of this. It's not like I'm going to change my mind tomorrow. I know this in my core. Well, all right. So that's certain knowledge. What is absolute truth? What is a truth that is absolute? Because as we know, life is a river that keeps flowing. What was right for me yesterday may not be right today. Well, here's an example of an absolute truth, which is your thought is creative. You are creating your life. Now, by thought, I don't mean, oh, I want to win the lottery. Those are passing ideations that we have. I'm talking about our central decisions that we make about our life, core decisions. When I've made a core decision and I'm certain about it, I'm living in a different way. Many versions of this have been put forth by teachers and even people we wouldn't consider necessarily our teacher. Christ's enlightenment was in the statement, I and the Father are one. And he was certain about that. He lived it through whatever trials went on. Buddha's enlightenment, to be able to pass judgment on every thought that you have. Now, passing judgment doesn't mean separating, it's just being aware of every thought. Being aware that I am not my thoughts. I am the creator of my thoughts, but I am not the thoughts. I wake up one day and I'm a bad person, and the next day I'm a good person. No, those are thoughts that I have. Who I am is not dictated by my mind. Was it Henry Ford said, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right. People who become awake recognize, oh, I am creating my own traps. I am creating my own obstacles in my life, some of which may be useful. I'll learn from. But when I stop learning from and I keep banging my head against the same wall, wait a minute. Maybe I've become attached to the wall rather than the truth. Even in science, the scientific method is you have an observation. Isaac Newton is sitting underneath a tree and bonk, apple falls on his head. And he's thinking about that, like, why is apples always falling on my head? Especially when I sit under a tree. He starts, well, wait a minute. Apple is a small body. Earth is a large body. Now I move away and the apple still falls, goes to the earth, doesn't hit me on the head, falls to the earth. What's going on here? And so he hypothesizes there is a force which is bringing the small body to the large body. Yeah. Let's test this out. That's the scientific method. You don't just have a hypothesis, you gotta test it. All right, let's get all my friends together and have them hold apples. Now we're gonna have them hold it at night. We work at night. Yep, clunk, works at night. How about in a rainstorm? Clunk, yep, still works. Wait a minute. 99.9% of the time, except that one time the guy got his foot in the way, the smaller body is going to the larger body. I hypothesize that force is called gravity. And when gravity now is tested around the world by so many people, it's a law. And we are quite partial to that law. We don't want the Wright brothers coming along and all of a sudden taking off. What is that? And so if someone wants to defy the law that we've all agreed on, they've got to come up with a different hypothesis and a different set of circumstances and test and whatnot, and oh, they can fly. And so finally, in in physics itself, in the hardest core science itself, they've come to discover that things are not always a law, because as soon as someone comes up with a different idea, a better idea, well, Auschwitz with that law. Now all of a sudden we've got photons. So finally they took that to the nth degree, and some scientists, I'm not saying all, but some physicists have gotten to the idea, well, if ever I think something and then I create a device or an experiment to prove it, maybe the smallest particle in the world isn't an atom or a photon or a quark, or it's thought. And so maybe thought is the smallest particle. Well, we're getting there. We're seeing how they're doing experiments now with someone, the researcher, thinking that the particle is going to go in that direction. Voila, it is. They're recognizing that there are powers beyond the material. Comes back though, thought is creative, and you are the thinker. And so this afternoon, we're going to look at your thoughts and why they are creating the life that you have right now. Because if this is true, if thought is creative, well, how come I'm scrambling every month to pay the rent? I don't want to be in that situation. All right, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at my real life. And I'm going to tell you the experiment I did yesterday with this about coming here today. So, thought is creative, and you are the thinker. You're responsible for the way your life is right now. Responsibility is not the same as blame. People think they get those two confused. Blame is a judgment against myself for the way I am. Responsibility means I accept the way I am, and if I'm not blaming myself, it gives me a little elbow room to do something about it, to change. Because particles respond to love. Ultimately, science will come to this, and some scientists are coming to it already, that the smallest particles in the universe, adamantine particles, are commanded by love. We'll get to that later.
Sure.
All right. So, what fears do you have about being responsible, 100% responsible for your life? What fears do you have? Now, ordinarily in this class, in the past, what we've done is we've paired up and people have done an A-B exercise of saying 30 times my fear of being responsible or being the creator of my life is, and then 30 times what makes it easier, what allows me to accept being the creator of my life is. But I'm going to imagine that for you all that you've done that exercise right now, is because I told you about it, and this is an advanced class, right? So you know that I have fears about being 100% responsible for my life, and I catch myself at times. Who put that shoe on the floor there that I tripped over? It's like it's not my highest moment. It's but for that moment, I feel the victim of the shoe putter. So we all have those moments. Like I said, enlightenment is, from that perspective, a process. It's not an end goal. And so we're going to recognize and accept that we're all on that journey. But who is the one that is setting up what my ultimate truth is? because one day it's, yes, I'm 100% responsible. And then tomorrow it is those politicians that are making legislation and hurting people and, and it's like, and then the next day I wake up, no, all is harmonious in life. All is actually just as it should be. Even though it looks terrible, there are lessons that are coming from it. And then it's like, bullshit. What an excuse for doing nothing, you slime bag. How come you're not out there marching, writing to your congressperson? Well, I begin to wonder who's putting up this truth, ultimate truth, on the altar of my life every day. I had the hypothesis, the janitor. The janitor is doing it. He's sneaking around behind the curtain and putting up my different ultimate truth for that day. So I call that the ultimate janitor. You know, so find out who's the ultimate janitor in your life. You know, this is the one that's got the power. You know, don't look behind the curtain. who is the one that is making that switcheroo for you from day to day? I think is a fabulous another game. Oh, not another game. Yes, another game. You're going to be with two partners this time. You're going to be in a threesome. And the person whose first name is closer to A in the alphabet. Now you won't have to worry about who's going to go first. So you're going to get in a threesome, and the person whose first name is closest to A is going to start. And we are inviting in now. You know, I've been talking about my thoughts on this, and you've heard other people. We're going to invite in guest experts. Now, we're going to invite in guest experts, and that is the inner wisdom inside of each of you. Because that first person of the trio is going to talk for 2 minutes. That's it. You're going to get the whole thing down in 2 minutes about why thought is creative. And give personal examples. Why your thought is creative in your life. Don't just blah, 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 slap your gums. Convince people. Tell them. Give them specific examples of what you've thought and how you've created it and how that's been in your life. Okay? After 2 minutes, time. Everyone says thank you to that person. Then we go to the person to their right. And that person is now going to give the definitive lecture for 2 minutes on why thought is not creative. It's a bunch of hooey. Personal examples of what you've thought and how it's completely run afoul. Why it's the last thing that is the truth, and da-da-da. 2 minutes. Then we go to the person to the right of that, and they're going to give, like now, the definitive lecture on why thought really is creative. They're going to refute everything the person said before them, and they're going to tell the truth about why thought is creative. Then, after 2 minutes, we're going back to the person who started and who gave the lecture on why thought was creative. And now you're going to give a 2 minute lecture on why thought isn't creative. We're going to take 2 minutes. Is that thank your lecturer and move on. And it's got to be, okay. We're going to go like that. It's going to take 12 minutes. 3 people times 2 is 6, times 2 is 12. So everyone is going to have an opportunity to talk about why thought is creative and why thought isn't creative, and be convincing. And you'll reach your own conclusions about what all that's about. Okay, so get in groups of 3. Everyone in the breakout room is going to be in a group of 3, and you got the instructions. Okay, thank the leader. Let's thank all of our leaders. Thank you. Thank your leaders. If you're still on speaking terms, you can give people a hug if you want. Everyone gets to decide for themselves who is their ultimate janitor. We're going to take a break now. 30-minute break. We'll be back top of the hour. We're all back in the room. We're going to master the mind.